Hello, my fellow book addicts, and welcome back to my channel. One moment, please. Very important. Oh, reading stickers. Book lover stickers. I got these on Amazon. Go away, I'm reading. I just love these. Anyway, I'm here to talk to you about Jack the Ripper in fiction. So don't worry, if you don't like true crime, there is no true crime in this video yet. So, how are you all doing? Good? Reading? Great. Y'all, channeling my inner honey raven here. Girl, if you're watching, I love you. Anyway, I have so many book hauls to show you. Like I said in my last video, my TBR was 1,500 in my last video. It has grown. So I think I'm up to 1,530, 1,540. I know. Like I said, and the name of my channel is I Am a Book Addict. And yes, I will read these. All right, let's get started, shall we? The first book, The Business of Blood. I have not read this one yet. I also have the second one. I'll show you here in a second. This one, London, 1890, Blood and Death are Fiona Mahoney's trade and business, as they say, is booming. Dying is the only thing people do with any regularity, and Fiona makes her living cleaning up after the corpse. After the corpses are carted away, her childhood best friend Mary, Mary Kelly, was the last known victim of Jack the Ripper. It's been 2 years since Fiona scrubbed Mary's blood from the floorboards, and London is no longer buzzing about the Ripper, but Fiona hasn't forgotten, and she hasn't stopped searching for Jack. So, The Business of Blood, I've not read this one yet. It was in a book haul that I got last month. I did get this one on Amazon. I mainly buy my books on Thrift Books or Book Outlet. So if you're looking for a an inexpensive way to buy books, I would highly recommend Thrift Books and Book Outlet. Not sponsored. Anyway, and this is a series. I do have the second one, which is A Treacherous Trade. And this one, Fiona is standing in the ashes of her tragedy and laden with the secrets of the dead. She seeks out the rough and relentless Inspector Grayson Croft to unburden her conscience. Before she can confess, Croft reveals the one thing that would dispel all thoughts of revelation. Sex workers are again being murdered, and a name is being whispered over their suggestively staged corpses. The name of the man who brutally slaughtered her childhood best friend. The name against which Fiona would sell her very soul for vengeance. Jack the Ripper. Again, book 1 and book 2. I got them mixed up. I bought this one first thinking it was book 1. Thankfully, I looked again and bought the first book. This next one, if you like Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, this one is called Dust and Shadow. Again, part of a book haul I got, Thrift Books. This was considered good condition. It looks almost new to me. As England's greatest specialist in criminal detection, Sherlock Holmes is unwavering in his quest to capture the killer responsible for terrifying London's East End. He hires an unfortunate known as Mary Ann Monk, the friend of a fellow streetwalker, who was one of the Ripper's earliest victims, and he relies heavily on the steadfast and devoted Dr. John H. Watson. When Holmes himself is wounded in Whitechapel during an attempt to catch the savage monster, the popular press launches an investigation of its own, questioning the great detective's role in the very crimes he's so fervently struggling to prevent. Stripped of his credibility, Holmes is left with no choice but to break every rule in his desperate race to find the madman known as the Knife before it's too late. So the books that I'm showing you are going to be part of my fall reading. So yeah, if you want to, later on, or in the description, I will link my Goodreads page, so that way you can follow me if you like. Anyway, Dust and Shadow. I cannot wait to get into this one. Actually, all the books that I'm showing you today, other than the ones that I've already read, I cannot wait to get into. This one is called The Name of the Star, and I've not read this one yet. It is a Thrift Books haul. So Cassandra Clare says, a gorgeously written, chilling, atmospheric thriller. The streets of London have never been so sinister or so romantic. The day Louisiana teenager Rory Devereaux arrives in London marks a memorable occasion. For Rory, it's the start of a new life at a London boarding school, but for many, this will be remembered as the day a series of brutal murders broke out across the city. Gruesome crimes mimicking the horrific work of Jack the Ripper in autumn of 1888. Soon, Ripper mania takes hold of modern-day London, and the police are left with few leads and no witnesses except one. Rory spotted the man police believe to be the prime suspect, but she's the only one who saw him. Even her roommate, who was with her at the time, didn't notice the mysterious man. So why can only Rory see him? And more urgently, what is he planning to do about her? This book is young adult. I do read a lot of young adults. This one, oh my gosh, you guys, 5-star review. I read this one a couple years ago. This series of books are amazing. This is number 1. It's called Stalking Jack the Ripper. This girl wants to be a medical examiner, so she hangs out in her uncle's morgue, and women are getting murdered in London. It says, he murdered women in cold blood. He terrorizes an entire city. He taunted those of us who hunted him down. But despite all these horrors, in the end, I could not deny it. I was the girl who loved the Ripper. So in this book, it does reveal who Jack the Ripper is, even though in real life, sadly, we don't know who he is or she. My theory is Jack the Ripper is actually Jane the Ripper. I'll talk about that more when I talk about in a true crime video. But anyway, I highly recommend this. For me, it was a 5-star read. Excuse me. Oh, I still have to learn how to edit. So right for now, my videos are going to be unedited. You know what? And I may never edit, so you never know what you're going to get. You guys, another 5-star read. This one is a young adult novel. It is called A Madness So Discreet. Sorry about the light, but it is, I have to keep my blind shut. She keeps it locked away along with her voice, trapped deep inside a brilliant mind that cannot forget horrific family secrets. Those secrets, along with the bulge in her belly, land her in a Boston insane asylum. Grace is banished to the dark cellars where her mind is discovered by a visiting doctor who dabbles in the new study of criminal psychology. With her keen eyes and sharp memory, she will make the perfect assistant at crime scenes. After escaping to an ethical asylum with the doctor's help, Grace continues to operate under the cloak of madness and must now hunt a murderer while she confronts the demons in her own past. Now, this one I know is set in Boston, but there was a rumor that Jack the Ripper had come to America and that there were several sex workers who were murdered during the Ripper murders in London. So this is Jack the Ripper-esque type story, but was it really Jack the Ripper? Maybe, maybe not. Again, A Madness So Discreet, 5-star review for me. It was a good book. I've held on to this. I've held on to this book for at least 2 years before I read it, and then I finally read it, and yes. A Knife in the Fog is the next read. I've not read this one. It is a thrift books haul. This is set in September 1888. A 29-year-old Arthur Conan Doyle, well, what do you know, is offered 1 month's employment to assist the Metropolitan Police as a consultant in their hunt for the serial killer soon to be known as Jack the Ripper. Doyle accepts with the stipulation that his old professor, surgery professor, Joseph Bell, Doyle's inspiration for Sherlock Holmes, agrees to work with him. Bell consents, and soon the two are joined by Miss Margaret Harkness, an author residing in the East End who knows how to use a derringer and serve as their guide and companion. Cannot wait to read this one. Growing up, I was a lover of Sherlock Holmes. I kind of still am. I wanted to be a detective like Sherlock Holmes. I mean, 9-year-old kid, right? And so, yeah, Arthur Conan Doyle actually had a brilliant mind. He actually wrote a true crime book based on cases that were going on around the time that he was living in. Another 5-star read. The Ripper's Shadow. This one, boudoir pictures, crime scene investigation journalist. I mean, it is amazing. Laura Jo Rowland, I follow her. Actually, I'm friends with her on Facebook. She's a sweet lady. So this one, Miss Sarah Bain, a photographer in Whitechapel, is an independent woman with dark secrets in the privacy of her studio. She supplements her meager income by taking illicit boudoir photos of the town's local ladies of the night. But when 2 of her models are found gruesomely murdered within weeks of one another, Sarah begins to suspect it's more than mere coincidence. Team with a motley crew of friends, including a street urchin. Stevie, the street urchin, I just love him. A gay aristocrat. Love him too. A Jewish butcher and his wife, and a beautiful young actress, Sarah delves into the crime of the century, but just as she starts unlocking the Ripper's secrets, she catches the attention of the local police, who believes she knows more than she's revealing, as well as from the Ripper himself. Yeah, now bent on silencing her and her friends for good. Caught in the crosshairs of a ruthless killer, Sarah races through Whitechapel's darkest alleys to find the truth until she makes a shocking discovery that challenges everything she thought she knew about the case. I have read the whole series. 5 stars all around. I did not want them to end, and I actually believe she just published, or did publish last year, another book in this series, so I need to pick that up. It's called The Ripper's Shadow. This one I've had sitting in my TBR for at least 3 years. This was gifted to me. It's called The Tea Rose. Jennifer Donnelly, she wrote, I believe, was it Slammerkin? I'd have to look and see. This one is East London, 1888. A city. I hate when they put the shiny. I'm gonna get to my light. Y'all, I'm 50 and progressive lenses. A city apart, a place of shadow and light where thieves, sex workers, but they use the W word for sex worker, and dreamers mingle, where children play in the cobbled streets by day and a killer stalks at night, where shining hopes meets the darkest truths. Here by the whispering waters of the Thames, a bright and defiant young woman dares to dream of a life beyond tumble down wharves, gaslit alleys, and the grim and crumbling dwellings of the poor. Fiona Finnegan, a worker in a tea factory, hopes to own a shop one day, together with her lifelong love, Joe Bristol, I have never heard a costermonger's son? Costermonger. Not sure what that is. I'll have to look that up. With nothing but their faith in each other and just to spur them on, Fiona and Joe struggle and sacrifice to achieve their dreams. But Fiona's dreams are shattered when the actions of a dark and brutal man take from her nearly everything and everyone she holds dear. Fearing her own death, she is forced to flee London for New York. So I was told that this was a Jack the Ripper book when it was gifted to me. So we'll see. I am going to read this one during the fall at some time. I normally start reading my fall books in mid-September through the end of November. So yeah, that one is called A Tea Rose by Jennifer Donnelly. I can't remember. No, I think Emma Donoghue was the one that wrote Slammerkin. Another good book. Is this one? Hold on just a second. I'm not sure if this one has Jack the Ripper in it, but it's Oscar Wilde and A Death of No Importance. This might just be a mystery. Lovers of historical mystery will relish this chilling Victorian tale based on real events and cloaked in authenticity. Best of all, it casts British literature's most fascinating and controversial figures as the lead sleuth. A young artist model has been murdered, and legendary wit author Oscar Wilde enlists his friends Arthur Conan Doyle and Robert Shepard to help investigate. But when they arrive at the scene of the crime, they find no sign of the gruesome killing, save one small spatter of blood. High on the wall, set in London, Paris, Oxford, and Edinburgh, at the height of Queen Victoria's reign, here is a gripping eyewitness account of Wilde's secret involvement in the curious case of Billy Wood. Okay, so no, this is not Jack the Ripper, but it was a read that it was suggested to me. And this sounds really good. Inspiration for the picture of, so this case was served as the inspiration for the picture of Dorian Gray, told by Wilde's contemporary poet Robert Sherard. This novel provides a fascinating and evocative portrait of the great playwright and his own consulting detective, Sherlock Holmes creator Arthur Conan Doyle. Yeah, so I got this one on Amazon by a seller named Glenn the Bookseller. If you guys are looking for used books on Amazon and you don't know what seller to buy from, I recommend Glenn the Bookseller. All of his books come in wonderful condition and he gets them to you quickly. So yeah, shout out to Glenn the Bookseller. Thank you for hooking me up all these years. And this one is called These Shallow Graves. I don't know anything about this one. Again, a Thrift Books haul. And this one, well, it doesn't have a blurb. It's again by Jennifer Donnelly. I thought this had a synopsis in it. But again, I was told that it was Jack the Ripper-esque. This one is set in London, the darker asylum for the insane, New York, 1890. So anyway, I'll just read you the first page because sorry about that. I should have looked it up, but I assumed that it had a synopsis. Josephine Montfort stared at the newly mounted grave in front of her and at the wooden cross marking it. "This is the one you're after, Kit Flynn," the gravedigger said, pointing at the name painted on the cross. "He died on Tuesday." Tuesday, Joe thought. 4 days ago. Time enough for the rot to start and the stink. "I'll be wanting my money now," Flynn said. Joe put her lantern down. She fumbled notes out of her coat pocket and counted them into Flynn's hand. "You get caught out here, you never saw me. You hear, girl?" Joe nodded. Flynn pocketed his money and walked off into the darkness. Moonlight spilled over the rows of graves. In the looming towers of the asylum, a wail rose on the night, high and piercing, and suddenly Joe's courage failed her. Step aside, Joe. We'll do it, Oscar and me, Eddie said. He was standing across from her on the other side of the grave. He said nothing more as she met his gaze. He didn't need to. The challenge in his eyes spoke volumes. How did this happen? How did I get here? Joe asked herself. She didn't want to do this. She wanted to be home, safe inside her Gramercy Square townhouse. She wished she'd never met Eddie Gallagher, the tailor, Madam Esther, Fairy Faye, and most of all, she wished she'd never laid eyes on the man buried below her. Wait by the vault and go back, Eddie said, not unkindly. Joe laughed. Go back? How? There was no going back. Not to her old life of drawing rooms and dances. Not to Miss Sparkwell's school. Not to her friends or to Brom. It had all gone too far. Joe? You wait by the vault, Eddie, Joe said crisply. Eddie snorted. He tossed a shovel at her. Joe flinched as she caught it and then started to dig. Wow. So I'm not sure if this has any Jack the Ripper themes in it. I'm into historical fiction also, so anything that's set in the 1800s, London, dark, gloomy, Victorian-esque, I'm into. So this one is called The Shallow Graves by Jennifer Donnelly. And then What Alice Knew. Wonderful book. I give it 4 stars. This one is Jack the Ripper, and she is an invalid most of her life. Alice James is quite used to people underestimating her, and she generally doesn't mind, but this time she's not about to let things alone. Yet, yes, her brother Henry may be a famous author, and her other brother William a rising star in the new field of psychology, but when they all find themselves quite unusually involved in the chase for a most vile new murderer, one who goes by the chilling name of Jack the Ripper, Alice is certain of 2 things. No one could be more suited to gather evidence about the nature of the killer than her brothers, but if anyone is going to correctly examine the evidence and solve the case, it will have to be up to her. And yes, I do highly recommend this book. Brilliant book. I believe I bought this one on Amazon. And yeah, so this is my Jack the Ripper book haul. I do have some that are not Jack the Ripper related, but they are set in the 1800s, set in London. And this one is called Jacoby. This is a series. It is a young adult, I believe. R.F. Jacoby, Investigative Service Assistant wanted, $8 per week, must be literate and possess a keen intellect and open mind, strong stomach preferred. Newly arrived in New Fiddleham, New England, 1892, and in need of a job, Abigail Rook meets R.F. Jacoby, an investigator of the unexplained, with a keen eye for the extraordinary, including the ability to see supernatural beings. Abigail has a gift for noticing ordinary but important details, which makes her perfect for the position of Jacoby's assistant. On her first day, Abigail finds herself in the midst of a thrilling case. A serial killer is on the loose. The police are convinced it's an ordinary villain, but Jacoby is certain the foul deeds are the work of the kind of creature whose very existence the local authorities, with the exception of a handsome young detective named Charlie Kane, seem adamant to deny. So this one caught my eye as I was looking for the Jack the Ripper type books. So cannot wait to get into this one. This one is on Thrift Books. This one, I've not read this one yet. It is set during the Spanish flu. A Death-Struck Year. I actually bought this book before the pandemic hit us. So yeah, it's been sitting on my to-be pile that long. Excuse me. In the grip of deadly 1918 flu pandemic, not even the strong survive. The Spanish influenza is devastating the East Coast, but for Cleo Berry, that's a world away from the safety of her home in Portland, Oregon. But then the flu moves west. Schools, churches, and theaters are shut down. The entire city is thrust into survival mode and into a panic. 17-year-old Cleo is told to stay put in her quarantine boarding school, but when the Red Cross pleads for volunteers, she can't ignore the call. In the grueling days that follow, she risks everything for near strangers. Strangers like Edmund, a handsome medical student, strangers who could be gone tomorrow, and as the bodies begin to pile up, Cleo can't help but wonder, when will her own luck run out? So this was recommended to me by an acquaintance of mine. They read it and said that it was really good, so I thought I'd give it a try. This next one is called What Angels Fear. I just got this in a couple of weeks ago, so I haven't had time to read it, but it's set in 1811. And the threat of revolution haunts the upper classes of King George III's England. Then a beautiful young woman is found sexually assaulted and savagely murdered on the altar steps of an ancient church near Westminster Abbey. A dueling pistol discovered at the scene and the damning testimony of a witness both point to one man, Sebastian St. Cyr, Viscount Devlin, a brilliant young nobleman shattered by his experience in the Neapolitan Wars. Now a fugitive running for his life, Sebastian calls upon his skill as an agent during the war to catch the killer and prove his own innocence. In the process, he accumulates a band of unlikely allies, including the beauty Cat Boleyn, who broke Sebastian's heart years ago. In Sebastian's world of intrigue and espionage, nothing is as it seems, yet the truth may hold the key to the future of the British monarchy, as well as Sebastian's own salvation. Cannot wait to get into this one. It is one of a series. So again, I'm going to start my fall reading. This will be part of it in mid-September and go through to the end of November. I will link my Goodreads page in the description if you guys want to follow me. I also do sometimes annotate my books if I know that I'm going to keep them. So I will talk about annotating, and I just started annotating, so I'm not an expert, and I'll show you my annotating supplies. My next video, I'm going to try to film once a week or every 10 days, will be my horror books that I plan on reading along with my fall reads. I average about 8 to 10 books a month, so I don't know if I'll get everyone read in the fall that I've talked about, but hey, I can continue to read them because hey, who doesn't love fall? Well, there might be some people out there that hate fall. Anyway, you guys take care, continue to read, keep growing those TBR, or take a book buying ban like I am. I put myself on a book buying ban. I do have a book haul coming in from Book Outlet, and I have another book haul down here that I'm going to compile and start doing book hauls for you guys, because like I said, I read anything and everything, and I am a book addict. Talk to you guys later. Ember Girl, I will catch up with you here in a few minutes. Bye.